Hey guys, it's West here, back with another Summoner's War video. Today we are, of course, on the Crushed Cookie account with another episode of From the Crumbs, and there's a lot to talk about. So, as you may notice, I am back in Giants. So there's a lot that happened on free rune removal. If you did not see the Dragons B10 Frustrations stream, it might give you some context to why I'm in Giants B10. But to sum it up, to make a long story short, and save you some time, I basically got frustrated with dragons. I was able to get fast teams. I have a 1 minute and 5 second fastest time, I believe, now that they've reset the fastest times with one of the newer updates. So I have a 1 minute and 5 second fastest time in there. I tried a bunch of different teams. Nothing that I did could get above an 85% success rate, and so none of it was efficient enough for me to want to hop into it. So this is the team I am currently running for Giants B10, because of course there are still runes I'd like to get, and I could still rune up all the monsters I have using Giants B10 runes. So this is a team compiled of my, I guess I would say, my favorite monsters in Summoner's War, and that's what how the team performs. Yes, you do see that. You may see that. It's a weird rune, but I'm going to keep it just in case. It does have a 5 speed roll. You may notice that this team looks a little bit weird. It's not your typical team. I don't have a Lucian, so I don't really have many options in terms of damage dealers. However, there are some damage dealers that I really enjoy. You'll see a recurring theme in my teams. I like to have damage dealers based off of speed. You can see I'm utilizing my transmogs here too. So I'm running a team based off of the Charlotte leadership skill. I talked about this in one of my other videos where I first really started building on this team. So basically 38% crit rate from the Charlotte leadership skill. You get 15% built in on your monster. You know, so you only need you only need 47% crit rate total with elemental advantage, because 38% from Charlotte, 15% from elemental advantage. That goes up to 53% that you get from just being a wind monster and having Charlotte's leadership skill, which means your units only need 47. So minus the 15% that automatically starts on the unit, you only need 32% crit rate through runes, and if you're using a blade set, you only need 20% crit rate in your runes. It's unbelievable how much, how many other stats you can actually stack on these runes. You can see some of these runes, like this rune, is just weird. It just has speed. This rune, crit damage, attack, a little bit of crit rate. But you can see these runes, of course, Charlotte, it's because Charlotte is a natural 5-star, of course. We do get a huge advantage to having her. It's not like she's a very obtainable unit, but because I have her, I'm utilizing her in my Giants B10 team. With 2 other wind units. I don't have a full wind team. I have 2 other wind units, but the rest of my team all synergizes fairly well together. So my next unit I runed up, or re-runed up I should say, is Hraesvelg. He inadvertently gained a lot of resistance through his runes. That was not on purpose. That was just the substats that were occurring in multiple different runes. Also, his crit rate is 10% higher than I would like, but the runes fit. He's 175 speed, which isn't terrible. His attack is decent. He isn't a fatal set, so his crit rate is under 200%, which is, not optimal for what I would prefer. But you'll see, some of these runes are fairly decent. Of course, there's a lot of upgrades. This is, I believe, my second best crit damage rune, my second best crit damage slot 4, so he did get that. And he got this rune, which is fairly decent, where, it's a pretty nice rune. So, he's got some okay runes as well. He's really there for the brand, the speed buff, the attack. I mean, everything he brings helps this team, and I'll sum it all up for why I like this team so much after I've introduced the rest of the units. So the next unit on this list, of course, is Amir. Amir's great, speed-based damage dealer. You can see he's got a lot of speed. He's a swift attack, crit damage attack, which is why his attack stat is, is not terrible. It's not as much as I'd like, because I really don't have attack subs on many runes. But I have him on a Swift Energy build just because if I put him on Swift Blade, his crit rate would actually be too high. Because just the Blade set alone, with a 30% built-in crit rate he has as a result of awakening into 15%, would almost already put him there. He would only need 5% crit rate. So there's no reason in putting a Blade set on him, as it really wouldn't provide that much extra. Another set I considered putting on him was Shield, because I have a decent amount of shield runes. I have some shield runes that are okay for damage dealers. Here's one. Again, it has crit rate on it, so not optimal. This one also has a lot of crit rate, but I had a few shield runes that I considered putting on him as well, just to give me some survivability, especially since his base HP is pretty nice. But the energy set helps him get a little bit more HP for his second skill, just a tiny bit. He has no skill ups, so also just to cover real quick, Charlotte, second and third skill maxed, and Hraesvelg, all of his skills are maxed for maximum damage output. Amir has no skill ups. I'm going to skip past Vero momentarily and head back to Galleon. So my Galleon build, of course, fast as you can make Galleon, high HP, high defense, just for a little bit of survivability sake, and high accuracy because, of course, I do use him in arena. Before, his accuracy previously was, I believe, like 56 to 59%. It was below 60% if I remember correctly. So having higher accuracy is going to help me in arena because there are some times where when he gets resisted, and I know that's still going to happen, but maybe a little bit less so now. So something I've wanted to do since I had my very first Summoner's War account, if you go back to those videos or if you ever saw any of those videos, you would know I was obsessed with the idea of a damage dealer Vero. Well, on this account I was actually able to pull it off since I switched my attack damage dealer runes from my Dragons team, my Speed Dragons team, into my Speed Giants team. He is attack, crit damage attack on Swift Blade, of course max skilled. You can see his speed is okay. I really put a lot of focus into having as high of attack as possible, just so his damage output is insane. He has all these units have the accuracy cap for Giants as well, which really helps. You saw Galleon was 71%. But all these units have enough so that they can dot, they can stun during the waves, they can actually output other things as well. But what this team does really, really well is apply harmful effects to the boss. And the application of dots to the boss from Hraesvelg, Amir, and Veramos all allow alternative ways to kill the boss if I don't get a defense break, right? So if Galleon fails, I don't get a defense break, at least I have an attack buff and speed buff from Hraesvelg, which greatly reduces the damage of my Amir as well as my Veramos. I could also maybe apply a brand, a bunch of other different things besides defense break if Galleon derps in order for me to have additional damage output. But I have all these dots from these three monsters to really help me kill the giant. I have the attack bar reduction from Charlotte. I have attack bar reduction from Galleon. A lot of things to make it a little bit safer. On top of that, Veramos is really, really amazing to be here because of his cleanse, because the number one thing that'll kill your team is a defense break, any kind of defense break on your team. And if the giant hits you normally with a defense break, you're pretty much dead, unless you have some sort of defense buff. But of course this team does not have that because it's all about speed and damage. And so Veramos cleansing that defense break is the next best thing. Of course it gives Vero a little bit of health, as well as making my team have a possibility of surviving an additional turn, which can be huge, as I have not seen a single failure with this team yet. Now, I've only run this team about 60, 70 times, so it could run into issues that I have yet to see. So far, even if one of the units dies at the mid-boss, we still don't have any significant problem, and it doesn't not happen that often. I'm going to go ahead and play the runs in the background a little bit more, just because I want you guys to see what, help me explain, what the team is doing while it's doing it. So you'll see Galleon actually lands this stuff. You'll see fairly large numbers coming out of all these monsters. Of course, attack, crit damage attack builds on Vero and Vero and Amir will really greatly increase their damage output, especially since I get a speed buff from Hraesvelg, which is really huge. It's like an additional Swift set, I believe, worth of speed given onto all of them, so their first skills will all hit harder. And you'll see we melted down this mid boss pretty quickly. I would say if there's any stage, of course, that we even struggle remotely with, it would be the mid boss, because even though we don't have a significant amount of high damage AoEs to clear the waves fast, we have 3 AoE units, or actually 4 AoE units. So all of our damage dealers have some sort of AoE skill. You'll see Vero might not get a chance to cleanse the defense break here. Oh, he will. But you'll see all these dots are going to greatly increase the damage we do to the giant. So even if the giant got in another turn, the dots would have been enough to kill him. And he wouldn't have, because we were going to outspeed the giant for one more turn anyways. And you can see even though Amir died and Hraesvelg died, we still had a 1 minute time. So it's really quick. Vero really helps hold it together. and Vero on damage build is really, really fun. I've been using him in Arena in place of my Poseidon for certain matches, just because Vero gives a certain amount of versatility that Poseidon does not have. So the problem with my Faye, Poseidon, Galleon, Bernard team is that oftentimes my Faye gets focused as it gets focused by either the tank or a Theomars. So if I lose Faye, I essentially lose because I have no more damage output. With the Faye, Galleon, Bernard, Veromos composition, I have the additional cleanse, which is nice. Vero has a little bit of self-sustain with the cleanse, as removing the debuffs on him will give him a tiny little bit of health, which is, for the most part, it doesn't influence the fight at all, but it can be convenient. The big thing is that he does cleanse, so you can maybe get that the defense break off from one of the units, or the slow, and also he has all that damage output, so if Faye dies, I have a backup damage dealer who can put out some huge numbers. You'll see here, 25k. He does have, brand, speed buff, attack buff, but for a Veromos, I think it's fairly decent. And you'll see, Mock Crushes hit upwards of 30k on this team with a brand, defense break, and a few dots. You will see some massive numbers. You can see my fastest team with this, my fastest time with this composition is 56 seconds, so it is running fairly quickly. I'm very happy with the team, and like I said, I haven't seen any failures, even though units die sometimes. I mean, that happens. Everyone here is squishy. But like I said, I've got 3 forms of CC with Vero, Amir, and Charlotte. Charlotte is on a Despair set. Having her on perhaps a Fatal set would increase the damage even more. Also putting Galleon on a speed crit damage attack build instead of the build he's currently on, a speed defense HP, I believe, build, could possibly speed up the runs, although it would limit his applications outside of Giants. Just because, there are some times where I'm not going to be able to clear the first turn when I use a Galleon, or maybe he derps or something like that in Arena, or Guild Wars mainly. And you can really, you could really lose a fight over something like that. So having him on the HP and defense, just helps a little bit for outside uses. Of course, I do have 2 extra Galleons in storage, so next time that I am struggling to find another 6-starter build, I may build a second Galleon, just so that I could have one dedicated specifically for dungeons and one dedicated specifically for Arena, and that way the speed tuning of my teams will not interfere with each other. Here you really get to see all that attack bar reduction from Charlotte. I mean, that was really huge, and really allowed us to basically get another turn for free. This team is really awesome. It's really interesting to watch. Of course, I do have, like I said, 3 transmogs in here, which is, I am partial to the team as a result of the transmogs. But we did have a lot of free rune removal struggle when it came to the Dragons team, so it's really nice to have a team that's working well, is going to be reliable, is interesting to watch. Other changes to monsters that I'll go over now. We have Lapis, so you can see this is a +0 crit rate Lapis. She also has 51% accuracy, fairly decent speed for a Despair energy set. I know it could be a lot faster, but she does not get priority in terms of Despair or energy runes, so she was like 5th or 6th on my priority list for energy runes. We did have an okay amount of HP on her. Her defense could be higher. That's my only complaint. Also, it'd be better to have her on a revenge set. None of these runes are maxed because they're all like extra runes, so this rune used to be on Galleon once upon a time. And this rune is pretty good. So the purpose of building this Lapis was to have a monster to help me really CC the Artemail stage, and Lapis did that perfectly, flawlessly. The first try with Lapis in my team worked. It could have been a fluke, but she really pinned down the enemies. She had that attack bar reduction on multiple fronts, AoE to stop the Yetis from moving. Of course, she did have a little struggle with stunning or keeping down the wind monkeys, but that wasn't a huge problem really, as eventually I had enough CC and other elements to hold them down. But she was really good for the Artemail stage. I really enjoyed it. The self heal was okay. More than anything, it was important to control that attack bar. Who else? So my Chilling Stella unruined, my Tark got unruined. My Vertihill is still on some runes because I did not hit the time limit correctly for unruining Vertihill. This build, minus some runes switched out, will be going on a speed-based attacker who I'm not going to announce yet in the future, just because it's a Swift Blade set which has stats that aren't terrible. But this was my Verd built for the Dragons B10 team. Just a small recap. Another unit that is, runed up and still runed up, hasn't really gotten touched. Didn't get touched on free rune removal, but I'm still really excited about is Chiwu, Despair Speed HP build, with, very minimal accuracy. The accuracy could definitely be higher for me to be happier about it, but now that I'm back in Giants, I'm going to be able to upgrade these runes hopefully soon, because I am going to aim for a 240 speed Chiwu on Despair. That's about what I'm aiming for, so I could play around maybe with a little bit of RTA. It's something that I haven't done much, and I want to do a little bit of content on, because I know Faye is amazing, has amazing potential in things like RTA, because she's a bruiser, or a bruiser damage dealer, who can really put out huge numbers and provide utility to the team too. She provides a lot in terms of, RTA teams, so I just want to play around with some interesting stuff and hop into parts of the game that I haven't really touched. Another unit, Mav. He had some runes sacrificed somewhere along the way for someone else, so I just filled in some runes on him, which is why he has 2% accuracy too low. He still works in TOA. Of course, I do want that 2% accuracy back. That irks me a little bit. Here's my Bella currently, which, I really am pretty happy about Bella's stats, especially since Bella does not have a speed slot 2 currently. Bella is on a defense HP build, and that is because in not too long of time, I'm going to be working on my my Rift Beast and R3 going into R4 team. I haven't touched the Rift Beasts or Raid really at all this game, and I just figured I might as well have a unit runed up and ready to go for when the time comes. I do want to fuse a homunculus soon. I think it's a BBD water homunculus. I believe that is the homunculus, or BDD. It's either BBD or BDD, because I do want to use it for TOA and see how that goes. To do so, I know Bella's a really nice frontliner. Has the defense break and the heals, of course, and I think the double defense HP build is going to help Bella survive the most. Of course, Bella is still on Swift, but I think once I bring these runes to plus 15, Bella will have the stats required. Like I said, I was pretty impressed by the speed I was able to achieve without a speed in slot 2. I guess I underestimate my runes sometimes, so I'm going to start, just trying new things rather than being too, I don't want to say scared of moving forward, but hesitating too much about, using certain units. Next up we have Faye. Faye's runes got shifted a little bit, 83% crit rate, 180 crit damage, plus 71 speed. Not much to say about her. She still doesn't have the stats I'd like her to. Like I said in previous videos, I'm aiming for HP, defense, attack, speed, and then if we can, after getting at least 170% crit damage and 80% crit rate, aim for maybe a little bit of accuracy so I could land the strip and the defense break more consistently. That's not a huge priority, but it would be nice for, if I use her in RTA to be able to do that. So after that, Lupinus is still on her runes from before. Manchura got unruined. So this is because I did change Poseidon a tiny bit. If you do remember before, Poseidon was a little bit slower than this. The accuracy was a little bit lower, so I was able to give Poseidon more accuracy, more defense, more HP, and more speed by unruining other monsters. The only problem I have with Poseidon currently is that this rune has crit rate on it, and I got a few other runes with crit rate on it, and I do use him in TOA, and when we get to the Artemail stage, it's really annoying to see Poseidon crit, as if he has 80% crit rate when he only has 31, but that is why I runed up Lapis to take Poseidon's spot for that one stage alone. And outside of there, that extra speed does help a little bit with the speed tuning between Bernard, Galleon, and Poseidon. So he does move right after Galleon for the most part, which is what he should be doing when I do use him in those comps. Other than that, besides 6-starring Manchura, there's not much we have done in terms of evolving or leveling monsters. I did fuse the Light Paladin. I talked about that a while ago. When I created the Paladin video, I explained the reason why I really like the Light Paladin is for TOA. I feel like the Paladin has many niche TOA purposes. I feel like the buff makes the Paladins even better. Getting the additional turn after the Provoke, I think, is amazing. Essentially putting the Provoke on a 3-turn clock after using it. So it makes getting the Provoke up again really, really strong. It makes Jean as a unit even better on Violent, in my opinion. You know, one Violent proc is all it really takes to keep the enemy on a seemingly infinite loop of being provoked, so long as the enemy does not have some sort of cleanse. I think the Light Paladin is very strong, and it's going to be fun to play with her. I don't know whether or not I'm going to 6-star her next. There's plenty of other units that I've been thinking about, especially units like Hua, which have a high damage output and are really fun to play with because there is that RNG element of, you know, Hua potentially just going off and getting a bunch of multi-hits as a result of her passive. I haven't even thought about Necro. It's not even in the back of my mind. I did pull a Lisa recently. That is a fairly new pull that I'm extremely excited about, and this is what really got me thinking about Raid and the Rift Beasts, is because Lisa's cleanse that also provides a fairly decent amount of damage. I should say a respectable amount of damage is really awesome. Also, she's fairly strong on Guild War defense, depending on the comp you put her with and the monsters you're attacked with, so you really have to play around her strengths and such. Nat 4 wise, not really any other Nat 4s that I'm excited about. I pulled another Wind Barb King. The game really wants me to build a second one, which I will eventually for Guild Siege. But that is it for the video. I'll go ahead and show you guys my storage before I wrap this all up. Not much to say here either. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any comments or questions, or just want to chat, go ahead and talk in the comments section below. I'll make sure to get back to you within the next 24 hours. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. Hey guys, it's West again. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe for more.